Hey guys, Ben Paynes here, back once again for another Monday night social at Teamsport Bristol, and today we have something a little bit different, as the footage you're seeing is from the second session of the evening rather than the third, and this is because I happen to be faster on the second session rather than the last one, which is not something that I usually have, as I usually improve bit by bit on each session, and eventually the last one is always the fastest one as the karts are warmed up and I'm really in the zone. But this week everyone seemed to have an absolutely blistering lap, and I was the only person that didn't really seem to improve on my best lap time. I've currently been finishing around the top 5 positions at the moment for the evening, getting about a 37, which I consider a very good lap, but everyone seems to be getting mid 36s, 36.3, 36.4, and I was still languishing, as you will see by the end of the video, that my fastest lap of the session was 37 dead, and it was an improvement on my personal best, which I'm very happy with. However, I was very confused as to why everyone else seemed to pull a lot more time out of the car in comparison to me. But as you can see, on our first lap we got a 38.2, and the second, with a bit of traffic, we have a 38.8, and moving on here, I found that I was out of any traffic, and I thought that this would make me faster in comparison to other people, getting a good consistent rhythm, as I think my overall average for the whole session was at 37.5, so I was getting very consistent lap times, and my average was actually a lot lower in comparison to a lot of the other drivers on the track. It's just that I was unable to actually break into the 36s, which is something I am still hunting to do, and I was really upset seeing as 11 people above me managed to get into the 36 seconds, and I just missed out, as you will see. But our third lap there is a 38 dead, and the times are coming down slowly now that we are focusing on the track and getting into the groove a little bit. As you can see, like I've mentioned before, I was trying to minimise as much of the track as possible and just maintain the shortest line to each of the corners, but I still couldn't manage to break down below a 37-second lap, and I think it's more of a mental block at this point rather than an actual physical block, as later in the session you will see I begin to push a little bit too hard, and I think that caused me to hit the wall quite a lot compared to what I usually am, as I wasn't really comfortable and composed as much as I usually am. And there you go, the fourth lap there is a 37.8, so the times are trickling down bit by bit as the session goes on. And I do find it difficult being by myself, as I have mentioned before, and I was looking to the group ahead and trying to keep up or catch up, and it was difficult as everyone seemed to be pulling away, and I was really confused by this, as like I've said before, I usually find myself to catch up to the people around me, and in this session I just was struggling to catch up, even though I'm putting in some really decent times. Like 37.6 isn't a time to be sniffed at, but there was a group of about 3 or 4 cars ahead, as you can see, just heading up the ramp, and I couldn't catch up with them, and it was really getting to me a little bit, and I was checking behind me to see if there's anyone behind me, because I just wasn't really gaining any time on the people ahead, as like I've said, they were putting in 36-second laps, which is obviously causing them to pull away from me rather than me gaining any time. But I don't know if it was due to the last corner, the sweeping right-hander there that I've just been round. I just could not get that corner right in this session. I was struggling for grip, and I don't know why, because the rest of the track was really grippy, and I was probably a bit too much grip. I was putting my foot down very preemptively, and the kart was not sliding, there was not a lot of oversteer. It really was helping me to be more confident on the accelerator, which, as I've mentioned before, is very important through this top double hairpin section, as I usually use about half throttle, and I was able to put my foot down a little bit more and sort of rely on the accelerator a bit more. And one thing I was attempting to do this week, which I haven't done in as many weeks in the past, is use really small inputs on the steering wheel. So rather than really throwing the wheel in, as you can see here through the next couple of corners, I really was using small inputs just to try and keep the wheels as straight as possible, which actually did manage to help me. You can see left to right section, my hands were moving and flowing together rather than just chucking the wheel left and right. I was trying to keep my arms as rigid as possible just to try and keep the wheel as straight as I could, and there you go, straight away we're down to 37.5, which, as I've said before, is a really good lap, and we're just continuing on trying to catch this group ahead, which have been slowed down, and we were looking to just come and get in the back of the train and try and gain some consistent lap times, as my times were coming down, but they still were higher than I wanted them to be. And as I said, I really was struggling with this last corner, as I couldn't understand why one lap I really was getting it nice and smooth, and the next I was sort of like chucking my hands all over the place. But there you can see once again a 37.4, and this week on that first left-hander, where there was so much grip, I was really trying to just keep my foot in as far as possible and just keep the acceleration as high as I could. And here once again up the ramp, just maximising the left hand side and trying to stay flat out through this corner by going a little bit wider rather than cutting in a little bit narrower and having to lift off. And you can see through those last couple of sections we really have closed up to people ahead, and this really was giving me a marker to sort of go off. And then we can see here we go across the line again, it's another 37.4, so we really are starting to be consistent in the mid 37 range, and through the bottom section of the track we have closed up to the group of 3 drivers ahead of us, which, unlike last week, was probably down to me looking forward rather than continually looking back and checking to see if someone was looking to overtake me. Instead, I was trying to get on the attack, try and work on my overtaking once more, instead of trying to defend against someone that is closing up behind me. And you can see ahead of us in the green helmet, have a little bit of a shout out here to OBS, who is another driver down here at the track, who has his own videos, and he really has improved a lot, considering that before this session he was around a second and a half slower than his personal best in this session, and I believe he got a 37.4, which is a massive improvement, as he does get a dive bomb there. But we're gonna have a little battle with him here and stick behind him like glue through the following sections of the track. And you can see here I really have closed up to these 3 drivers ahead of us, as Connor there, who is a member of staff, as he pulls off to the left and sort of releases the 3 of us to go racing with one another. As we go across the line there, it's a bit of a slower lap, it's 37.6, and this is due to obviously having that little bit of traffic ahead of me. And I really was looking to overtake as quickly as possible so I could continue along the track and just try and put in some quick lap times, as I thought there was definitely more to come. And here I just dived up the inside and just took the position, got a little bit of a shunt there, and just moved along. But my sights were now set on the person in front of me once again in the number 21 car, and we're coming through. You can see there they were sort of all over the place, and it was able to allow me to catch up and gain some time on them. There's another 37.6, it's sort of written in the stars get 37.6, as I'm behind people from being so consistent in the last 2 laps. But you can see once more just the way I'm able to keep the car more planted than the person ahead of me just allows me to close up to them. But unfortunately, as they were a little bit lighter up the ramp, which obviously is no excuse, they were able to pull away a little bit, and in the corners really closing up to them, almost touching. Coming down to the last corner once again, just trying to stay as tidy as possible, and there you can see they're going wide, and I'm right in the gearbox of the car, and they're 37.3, so I really am almost pushing them through the bottom section here as they're bumping off one wall to the other. And then I believe as we go around this bottom hairpin, I was able to get a good run compared to him, and this allowed me to succeed in the overtake that I was looking for. And the annoying thing is, when you go really narrow on that top bend there, it really does sort of limit the speed you can get going down to the 2 hairpins on the top section. And here I really was trying to just push away now rather than get caught up with the people that I have just overtaken. And this lap once again was a 37.3, so really close to my fastest lap of the session, but not quite making it, and that was due to the traffic. So at this point I could feel in myself that I was getting in the groove, and I was getting a bit quicker, and was sort of just flowing a bit more, and I was just checking behind there as we come up the ramp to see if there is anyone behind me, and luckily there wasn't, as I was able to carry on along my way. And this meant I was able to maximise the track a lot more in comparison to being stuck behind someone who's sort of following their lines. You can see now as we come down into the last corner of the lap, just trying to stay as tidy as possible, and I found that keeping it tight around that corner really did help my times. As you can see there, I got 37.1, so we are coming down, and I really did believe that I would have been able to get 36 in this session. But unfortunately, as I said, it just didn't come. But we do have some faster laps still to come, rather than that 37.1. But you see there, just slightly missing the tyre wall, just getting as close to the limit as we can. And I still didn't this week on that second hairpin. I have been told that you can sort of bump the tyre wall and push it back and sort of gain a bit of time doing that, but I've still failed to actually try that. Now once again being really consistent now, 37.255, so I really was getting the groove, and as you can see on the left, I have sort of broken away from the people that were already overtaken by myself, and here I was really able to get some consistent laps in, and trying a few different lines compared to normal. As you can see there, just going a little bit too vigorous into that top corner, but it was helping, as I was able to go flat out in comparison to having to lift off like I have the last couple of weeks that I've come down. And you can see going a little bit wide, and that does compromise the run of the lap a little bit, as you get 37.226, and I believe that this was my fastest lap of the session coming up, and I really was trying to keep it as tidy as possible and keep the track as short as possible in order to gain as much time as I can. And there you go, just looking back just to see if anybody is creeping up on me, but luckily they weren't, and this meant that I was able to focus on the track ahead of me, really minimise the track, as you can see. And there is definitely room for improvement, as there are people getting 36 seconds obviously, and I really do want to be one of those people. But there you can see, with a tidy lap, we come across the line with 37.046, which is officially my fastest lap at the track at the moment, and I really am looking to sort of beat that as soon as I can, really, because it's been the last 2 weeks now, we're very, very close, but just can't quite shave off those few hundreds of a second to get down into 36 seconds. And I was finding with the new grip that I had on the wheel this week and trying to move the wheel a little bit less, my arms were beginning to get a bit fatigued, because I realised my arms were really tensed rather than staying a bit more loose and a bit more free moving. Instead, as they were really rigid and I was trying to do small inputs, it really was affecting sort of my upper arms, and I was struggling a little bit just to maintain that level of smoothness. And you can see here a little bit of counter steering, as I was having to fight the car a little bit towards the end of the session and as fatigue was setting in. But the lap times were still around where I wanted to be, at 37.1, which is still a very quick lap. And as we come down here into the bottom corner once again, you can see I'm just trying to keep the same steering angle as I have mentioned in a previous video, just sort of maintaining the same steering angle throughout the whole of that bottom last corner really does help just to guide the kart through. And I couldn't tell if this week I was going a little bit too fast into that corner, but there was definitely people gaining time on me through the last corner behind me. As we come up the ramp once again, I noticed someone else. The reason I was taking a wider line this week is because I noticed that people were actually gaining time on me through that section, where I was having to lift off and sort of control the kart a little bit more. And you can see here, just coming down once again into this last section, going a little bit wide and sort of just missing where I was meant to. But that was the last lap, and I ended the session with a 37.124, which is still very respectable time, but I do believe that there is room for improvement. You can see the flashing yellow flags. There wasn't actually an incident, but this did signify the end of the session for this week. And with that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Please could you leave a like and subscribe for a lot more videos coming very soon, especially this week. If you want to catch up with me on a more personal level, my Instagram is linked in the description. I'll catch you guys in a bit. Take care.